Hello and welcome to another episode of TV on TV. I'm State Representative Tommy Vitolo. You're watching Brookline Interactive Group. Today is Thursday, November 11th, and we've got a great show for you today. Now, our interview today is with Bill McCrory, who is the Veterans Services Director for the town of Brookline. We filmed it earlier this week, and so we're going to talk about Veterans Day in the future tense. But of course, today is Veterans Day. And I hope that you were able to attend the services in front of Town Hall earlier today. But if not, stay tuned for an interview with Bill McGroarty, and we'll talk a little bit about just that. First, the news. The United States has lifted travel restrictions for 33 countries, a first step in opening domestic borders for international travelers. Although foreign travel is unlikely to return to pre-COVID levels for several years. As the investigation surrounding the January 6th Capitol invasion continues, a federal judge blocked former President Donald Trump's attempts to withhold White House records from the House committee. The FDA advisory panel has now expanded approval for the Pfizer vaccine for children ages 5 to 11, and additional doses have been shipped to Massachusetts. I'm delighted to say that my two children were vaccinated earlier this week at Children's Hospital. They've got another dose to go, of course, but we're making progress. Today, NARAL Pro-Choice Massachusetts launched under a new name, Reproductive Equity Now, which was chosen to reflect the urgency they feel to demand, protect, and expand abortion access and care in Massachusetts. I hope to have someone who is closely associated with Reproductive Equity Now on the show in the coming weeks. The Massachusetts Senate debates their American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA, package this week, an important step before the House and Senate send a conference version to the governor's desk. Brookline's town meeting meets virtually next week to debate several dozen warrant articles. And hey, it's a quick news week, which gives us another minute or two to get to Bill McGroarty, who is the Director of Veterans Services for the town of Brookline. Again, stay tuned for our interview from earlier this week. Thanks for watching TV on TV here on Brookline Interactive Group. And as promised, this week's interview on the week of Veterans Day is with Bill McGroarty. He's the Director of Veterans Services in Brookline. Bill, thanks for coming on the show today.
Thank you for having me on the show today. I really appreciate it, especially for Veterans Day.
Well, and as folks know, Veterans Day is this Thursday, 11/11, as it is every year. But before we talk about Veterans Day, Bill McCrory, I'd like to ask a little bit about you. What you've been doing all your life. Tell us how you came to be here and how you came to be with the town of Brookline.
Well, I'm really lucky. I was a United States Army officer. I left the service, worked private industry for about 5 years. Didn't really find it that satisfying. Started working for the state as a veteran service officer, as a jobs counselor with the Division of Employment and Training. Did that for a couple of years, and that was really a lot of fun. But it was a one-trick pony. That's all you did was help you with jobs, which is an important thing. But people would come in with a whole myriad of issues, and had an opportunity to work for as a municipal veteran service officer for the city of Gloucester. I did that for a number of years. And the opportunity came to Brookline. Brookline's an amazing, amazing community. And I've been here since 2005. I can't tell you how privileged I have been to work with the veterans of Brookline. And an amazing group of people, a hugely diverse group of people, and some of the most accomplished people I've ever met. So this has been a privilege.
So tell us a little more about Brookline Veteran Services. Most folks in Brookline are not veterans. They don't really have a feel for the delineation between federal, state, and local supports. Tell us what you and, in fact, Veteran Services of Brookline does for our residents who are veterans.
Absolutely. We try to provide a full range of services to veterans. From the state side of the house, we administer what's called Mass General Law 115, emergency financial benefits. If a veteran loses their job, say, and all of a sudden their unemployment is delayed for some reason, we can step in and, depending on their circumstances, their financial circumstances, and help them financially until their unemployment kicks in. Or, sometimes with some of our elderly people, you'll have the widow of a veteran, and when the veteran passes, some of their retirement income passes with them, unfortunately, and we're able to step in because their income dipped below a certain level and help them with a small pension that will keep them afloat. It's not going to Vegas money, but it is enough to keep you in your home if you're healthy, and that's a really important thing. So we do that from this end of the thing, and that's direct benefits to the veteran. And if they qualify, we can make that happen fairly quickly. Within a week, within 2 weeks usually. The bad caveat to that is that it's indexed based on the poverty level, and Brookline is a very expensive place to live. So you could be struggling financially and actually be over income. And we try to find ways of helping people if they don't qualify for 115 benefits and need some financial help or need other help. The other thing we do is we try to be the facilitator to help people get their veterans benefits through the federal government. And I strongly encourage every veteran that's qualified to seek VA medical care. Even if you're very comfortable with your provider, your private provider, it's nice to have that second medical coverage. It's through the VA hospital. The medical care is excellent. I get all my medical care from the VA. I could have insurance through the town. I choose not to, because the VA does such an amazing job at taking care of me. And they do that with my other veterans. We're really, I know you hear some things in the news that always aren't positive, but that's, and there may be areas where there is problems, but that's not the Boston Medical Center, Boston VA Medical Center does a really good job, and their people do a really good job taking care of our veterans. So I give them strong pluses, and they're not insurance based. So if they think you need to run a test, they're not running to an insurance company asking them if it's okay to take the test. The doctor makes a decision, not the insurance company. It's made based on health reasons, not financial constraints. So I strongly encourage everybody. For some people, if their income is low enough, or if they have a service-connected disability rating of 50% or greater, the healthcare is actually free. For other people, the healthcare is at a reasonable cost. It's $8 for a copayment for a prescription, and $20 for copayment for a doctor's visit. Some specialty things do cost $50. I've had cases where insurance companies balked on providing a certain kind of MRI or CT scan for a veteran that their private doctor wanted, and the veteran was able to see their VA doctor and get that done and have the information sent to the private doctor. So it's been a really good event for people. What we do is we'll take your discharge, we'll help you fill out the forms. I actually walk the forms over and turn them in because it expedites getting you in the system, and it's really important for people. And again, if there's an issue with your primary care, then you got the VA as a backup. And if you don't have health care, this is a godsend. And for a lot of people, it's a godsend. If you can't afford your prescriptions, it's a godsend. We also help people with disability claims. Whether you just got out of the service 6 months ago, or whether you got out in World War II, if you were injured in the service, you are eligible to get disability compensation from the VA. And I'm still filing for World War II veterans. At 1 o'clock today, I have a World War II veteran being interviewed by the VA for a claim, or sorry, a Korean War veteran, but he's 91 years old. So he's down there today. I spoke to him this morning, getting him ready for his claim, because he was injured in the service and never asked for any help. And now he's getting the help he finally asked for, finally needs. We also help, there's a program which is a lot more difficult to access called aid and attendance. And sometimes when people are trying to stay in their home and their home health care costs skyrocket, we're able to help them with that. That's a complicated process, but we will do our best to work with them for that. And I try my best to make it as easy as possible for our veterans to do that. So we work as a conduit in a couple places. a lot of times when the young men and women that serve in our country, especially in this war, and they come back, they need to talk to somebody, and we're here for that too. And I'm not a clinician. I do my best to talk and listen, and then try to get you, if you need additional assistance, to see a clinician at the VA. We try to be a facilitator for that as well. So those are our big things, and we help families with, other things, getting access to their VA loans for housing loans, help them a little bit with their educational benefits, but most of that goes through the schools they're going through, because they're really set up for that. And unfortunately, we help help families when a veteran passes also with those arrangements as well. So those are our big things that we do for people right now.
So
Healthcare and claims are our strongest points.
yeah, and I think that it makes a ton of sense because we Brookline isn't providing most of those actual services, but we're helping our residents who are eligible for a variety of different services access those services, and that helps them stay in our community and stay engaged. So I think it makes a ton of sense. Veterans Day is coming up. Tell us about what's planned for Veterans Day.
Well, unfortunately, with the COVID, we're not going to do the collation afterwards. That's where we usually have a little bit of a dinner after thing. But we're going to do the Veterans Day event. It's at 11 o'clock in front of the town hall at the War Memorial, right? And we do our general event. Our speakers this year, our speaker this year is town meeting member Neil Gordon, who's been working very actively to keep civil service for our first responders. Representing the town is Selectman Bernard Green. Representing the state is you. And I believe State Senator Cynthia Cream is also coming in. I heard that. And we're giving out several awards. If you're so kind, Representative Vitolo will be honoring several of our World War II veterans who, a lifetime of service, not just to the military, but to their community. And they're national treasures. One is Warren Goodman, who had a 100th birthday this summer. I attended that. And the other is George Sala, who was an injured firefighter who served in both the Atlantic and the Pacific during World War II. And it's just, again, people have done so much for the community. We're just going to recognize them. Later on, we're going to give out the Arthur Hurley Award. Arthur Hurley was an iconic member of the veterans community. He was a World War II veteran, a Silver Star recipient. If you didn't like Arthur Hurley after meeting him, you probably need therapy, because you couldn't have found a better person than Arthur. He really was. Not that you're supposed to have a favorite veteran, but so when Arthur passed, we actually set up an award for him that we did to honor veterans. And this year we're honoring two of our veterans, one from each of our posts. We have a very active American Legion post, and we have a very active VFW post. They share the same building, but they're two different organizations. And we're going to be honoring the people that do the grunt work this year. A gentleman named Len Hooley, who's the American Legion adjutant, and he does all the paperwork for the American Legion, and he's been doing it for a number of years. And a gentleman named Craig Capagna, who is a officer in the fire department, and he has been the finance officer for the VFW for at least 10 years now, probably more. So we're going to be honoring them. I also give out a Veteran Service Award. That's actually from my office, and that doesn't have to be to a veteran, but it's people that support veterans. And this year, we're actually going to honor Selectman Bernard Green. Bernard has been with us since the beginning, and Bernard has always supported our veterans in the town, at the veterans organizations, with funding. He's been a good friend to veterans, and we'd like to say thank you to him as well.
And just so the viewers understand, because we're filming this before Veterans Day, we're talking about it in the future. But of course, you, the viewers, by the time you see this, you will have just missed it. This will air on Veterans Day in the late afternoon. And so we're talking about things in the future tense that by the time you see them will be in the past tense. amongst other things we can do on Brookline Interactive Group, we can bend time. And that's exactly what we're doing today. Bill, I know that you would never hesitate to ask for things that veterans need and that you've been doing that on an ongoing basis. But I wonder, are there opportunities either through town government or through other avenues in town that we could further meet the needs of some of our veterans that might not be being met as fully as we'd like?
Well, again, we endeavored to meet our veterans' needs across the board. I actually have a little funding set aside. I'm not using it right now because of the shutdown and things have been so restricted, but I'm hoping that when things widen up a little bit, then I'm going to get a small handicap accessible van. Maybe we can help getting some of our mobility challenged veterans who are still ambulatory to their VA appointments that way. We actually gave it up at the beginning of the COVID because, again, you know, the shutdown really changed the dynamic of everything. We had an internship program. It worked out really good. What happens with, and especially we got a lot of young men and women coming back from the war on terrorism. They served their country valiantly, and then they were going to go to school and further education using their GI Bill benefits. Those that lived in town, a lot of them, because again, this is not an inexpensive place to live. Their spouse was working, and they would be getting the GI Bill, so they'd be able to keep their head above water. A lot of them lived here, you know, because A, it's a great town to live in, and B, it's close to all the educational institutions, and C, we have a great educational system here. A lot of them had young families. The problem is that once you graduate, the VA benefits immediately end. Doesn't always mean you have a job waiting for you when you get out. It's not, you know, like it was. Sometimes you have to wait 3, 4, 5, 6 months. So what we did was we had an internship program where we'd hire you. We try as hard as we can to put you as close to what you were working at as possible. We had a lot of people in the IT department that did technical things, and it was a win-win situation. It gave our veterans a little extra money while they were looking for work. It gave them another thing to put on their resume, especially if it was as related as possible to what they were looking to do. And thirdly, it gave the town some great assistance. You know, when they were when these men and women were helping in the departments, some of the departments that they really hated to see them go when they finally got their first full-time position after college. And believe it or not, we did this for the college people, but we also ended up finding a few of our older veterans who found themselves a year or two before retirement and suddenly were at a loss for a job, and this helped them also. So it worked both directions. So that's what we were trying to do as much as possible.
I wonder if you could help our viewers. So many of our viewers know that there's a VFW AL Post right in Brookline Village, sort of on the corner of Cypress and Washington and School Street. But many folks don't know how it works, or heck, even what the acronyms are, what the letters mean.
Okay.
Can you tell us a little bit about those two posts, how they work together, how they relate to the town, and who they serve?
Okay. Both posts have a very similar mission, but they have and some of them have a lot of crossover members, but there are some differences. The American Legion is a veterans organization. To be a member, you have to be an honorably discharged wartime veteran. You don't have to have been in combat, but you have to be an honorably discharged wartime veteran. And that covers most of our veterans. There are some veterans who are in peacetime, and I fully disagree with the mandate. I wish they let everybody in, but those are the things that Congress passed when they gave them the charter. And they work within the community, and they work within the veterans organizations, and it allows veterans to gather and spend some time together with people that have similar experiences. And that may not sound important, but it is very important. The VFW is the Veterans of Foreign Wars. And the real difference is you actually have had to deploy into a combat zone to be a member of the VFW. So there's a little bit difference in their experiences. Now, there's a lot of crossover members that belong to both. I belong to both. But, you know, and again, especially for our veterans that did see combat, to be able to sit with other veterans that have shared experiences is huge, because a lot of times your family can't understand what you went through. But the men and women that sit with you at the VFW or the American Legion can. So especially for our combat veterans, that's very important. But whether you're a combat veteran or not, everybody did their part and served our country and should be treated with the greatest respect. And these organizations bring our veterans together. They give them that comradeship they had in the service, and they do some good things for the communities. So it's a win-win for everybody. The Veterans Post, you know, is on Washington Street. Always looking for new members, and they do some neat things. Again, COVID has kind of brought this up and down, but we were doing this thing with jazz music that was open to the whole public. It wasn't registered to veterans. John Purcell, who was not a veteran, but is a real good supporter of ours, put it together. And jazz musicians would come down. They turned the lower lounge into a bistro. It was free. I mean, if you wanted to go buy a drink at the bar, you paid for that. But other than that, it was free. And the music was great. For a Friday night or a Saturday night, what a place to go and do that. It was just a really neat thing. And hopefully we'll be starting that up again as you know, the pandemic becomes more controlled. And hopefully that will be very soon.
Now, it occurs to me that obviously most of our World War II and Korean vets have passed on. And in fact, you know, our Vietnam vets are getting on in age. And thankfully, we haven't had you know, we haven't had a draft since then. We haven't had the kind of deployments since then. Is it the case that the membership is declining? And is there something to, you know, what does that mean for the future of those two organizations?
Well, I think a lot of things are cyclic. Membership has declined. Of course, you know, there were 16 million people deployed in World War II. Far less people fought in the war on terrorism. That's a blessing. Quite honestly, that's a blessing. But you know, the war also lasted for decades, so they generate a lot of people. I find that, you know, you have some very young members, and that's really good because we need that blood. I also find that, you know, you come home from the service and you go back to your life, or you start your life, and you got a lot going on, and sometimes it's hard to make a meeting on a Thursday night. But as you get a little bit older and you get a little more settled and your life's a little more settled, and you're missing that comradeship, that you find your way to the Veterans Post to be with your comrades. So I would say that, you know, there are ups and downs. I think we do have members from the war. We have a lot of members from the war on terrorism, and I think some of them show up very regularly, some of them not as much. But I think you'll see that numbers grow as my war on terrorism veterans get a little more settled in life. But we're not going to have the numbers we had in World War II because there just aren't as many veterans.
Right, and as you said, that is a good thing.
That is a good thing.
But the Post, my understanding is the Post is on really solid financial footing. The Post isn't going anywhere. It's going to continue to serve veterans of foreign wars, or in the case of the American Legion, active duty members during at least most of American time. They're going to continue offering those services because they're in good shape. Is that a fair assessment?
We're in good shape. We're on very solid ground. Both posts are. Some veterans posts sadly have become more of a bar than a veterans post. We're not that. We're actually a very legitimate veterans post, and we do outside activities. We're actually a really good resource for the community because we have a hall. There aren't too many spaces in Brookline, and we can accommodate 100 people. So we use it for a lot of things. I think about a month ago, the Homeland Security for the town did their CERT MRC, that's the Civilian Emergency Response and Medical Reserve Corps Honors Award Night at our post. It was really nice. So we're able to give back to the community by just lending our hall to events like that. It was really good.
Bill, no question, the veterans in town recognize and appreciate the tremendous things you do for each of them, at least 5 days a week. I know you're actually on call 7 days a week, regardless of what the town says. I know you're around all the time. And I hope that, between programs like this one and events like Memorial Day and Veterans Day, other folks in town will appreciate just how important you are to the health and well-being, physical and mental, of the veterans who live in this town. So thank you for everything that you do. And I'm so grateful for your work, and I'm so grateful that you appeared with us today on TV here on Brookline Interactive Group.
Now, I'm going to flip this around a little bit. I'm not doing this because you had me on your show, but when I've had issues with veterans that needed help from the state, you and your staff have done an amazingly good job, and you're there supporting us. So I'll flip it around. Thank you for being around 24/7 for my veterans.
Well, I'm always going to do that. I'm grateful that in almost all cases, you solve the problem long before it gets to me, and they get the help that they need more quickly. But that's absolutely right. And I'll remind folks, because I do it all the time, call Bill, but you can always call me, 617-872-8921. I've been holding up this piece of paper on Zoom calls since March of last year, and I'm going to keep doing it. This is my cell phone number. If I can be helpful, you call me, and we will do the best that we can to connect you with whatever services or solutions you need. Folks, you've been watching Brookline Interactive Group. We've had Bill McGroarty, who is the Director of Veterans Services for the town of Brookline. You're watching Brookline Interactive Group, and we hope to see you again next week. Thanks for watching.